Hey everybody, I'm Steve Owens, and this gentleman right here is Guillermo Gonzalez,
What's up,
and
everybody?
we would like to welcome you to the first episode of The Scope, our official Bassmaster Kayak podcast. So um, we'll get into the introductions and who we are in just a minute. We'd just like to come up and explain to you all how we came up with a podcast here. So, we have a lot of great podcasts in the fishing space and the fishing area, but we've got a lot of kayak-centered podcasts across the country, some really good platforms, some people who do a really great job at it. But something that we felt like was lacking was something where we could put a nationwide onus on the angler, then the sport, and from there we could get into brands, techniques, other things to introduce people either brand new into kayak fishing or wanting to come from the boat world into kayak fishing and things like that. So for a few years, myself and some other people have discussed ideas like this, but over some time, as the platform for the Bassmaster Kayak series specifically grew, we got good stability and angler input into it. Finally, had time to decide to sit down and organize it, educate ourselves in what we need to do and what we need to offer. So then that idea was born, and then we just started diving into what all it would take to do it. And obviously, it's the people to do it. Diving into it, we looked around and just tabletopped a few things. And from there, it seemed like, myself and Guillermo Gonzalez would be two good people to do it. So, just to get into just a real quick introduction, and then we'll let Guillermo dive into the name, the scope, because he's a much more cerebral and wittier person than I am. I'm good for a few chuckles and laughs, but people like him, they're the ones that bring the good insight and things like that into it. So I'm Steve Owens. A lot of you know me as a tournament director for the Bassmaster Kayak series. Over my history in the industry, which is probably about 11, 12 years now. I've been a director for Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers, which is a grassroots club that fishes the Tennessee River system, primarily Chickamauga, Nickajack, Gunnersville. And then from there, I grew into tournament director for the KBF series, kayak bass fishing. And after that, Dwayne Wally, who was instrumental in designing and getting the Bassmaster Kayak series off the ground, reached out to me in the infancy of the series. So helped put some fine tuning on some of that stuff, and then ran a couple of tournaments for the inaugural season of the Bassmaster Kayak series. And then from there, grew into working in the Bass Nation part of what we have in the kayak tournament space. So I run the Georgia Bass Nation Kayak Series as well as Tennessee Bass Nation Kayak Series, and I'm the field staff manager for Dugout Bait and Tackle in Marietta, Georgia. Just basically, AKA hustle. Try to see what we can do in the industry and the sport to grow it all and help our anglers get into the things that they need. So I fished from day one that we got into all of this. It was a travel angler, as I mentioned, with KBF. Fished that series a lot. Fished the Hobie Bass Open Series. Cashed some checks there. Made the very first Hobie Tournament of Champions along with Guillermo Gonzalez here on Lake Ouachita. We got to travel and do a lot with the Hobie Bass Open Series when it was really strong and rolling along. And never got to fish a Bassmaster Kayak Series event because I've always been a tournament director. But that's me. 4 years ago, I was able to leave a full-time position. I've been a reactor operator for pretty much about 28 years at that time. And through what we do in the tournament space and your support as anglers, I was able to leave that and do Bassmaster full-time, along with my relationship with the Dugout Bait and Tackle in Marietta. That's what I get to do full time now. So I get to run tournaments and get out and fish and have fun and just make memories and have a really, really just joyful and impactful and full life on my end. And again, without further ado, it's mainly because you all support what we do. And so a lot of you know Guillermo G. So I'll let him get into who he is and what he does, and we'll just keep going from there. And hopefully you'll enjoy what we do here on the Scope. We're going to dive into a lot of things, but we'll get into that after he does his bio here. So Guillermo Gonzalez, welcome, welcome, and really blessed and proud to be a partner with you here on the Scope.
So, first of all, Steve, listen, don't sell yourself short. You're more of a cerebral person than you think. I'm just saying. Um, but anyways, I gotta say, Steve, I feel so blessed to be a part of this, and and so thank you so much for initially Steve actually reached out to me, and I was stoked to be able to be a part of this project. I mean, there's so many things within the bass fishing realm that I just love to talk about, beyond just things beyond just going and throwing a crankbait down the bank. You know what I mean? Like, the mental aspect of the sport, conservation, the state of the industry, just topics that you hear about from time to time on podcasts, but they're really, they're really what fuel our sport behind the scenes. So it's, I wanted to kind of, at least when Steve brought this idea to me, I was really interested in kind of doing like a more introspective uh kind of analysis of the sport of bass fishing, and not just bass fishing but also kayak bass fishing. A little bit about me. I'm actually I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I spent most of my life growing up in South Florida. And ever since I was little, I was just flat obsessed with fishing. I lived, breathed, ate fishing, and that has carried over into even this stage in my life where I'm so blessed to be able to, travel all over the country and fish some amazing places with the Bassmaster Kayak series and some other amazing tournament trails that are out there. But you know, one of the things that I think is really important, in order for just to give y'all, a better idea about who we are. I kind of, I've been thinking about this a lot as we've been preparing for this podcast, and you know, I, I got some questions for Steve Owens, and they're just things that I got to know one, if this is even feasible for me to continue doing. I mean, we could stop this right now if it doesn't work out. But anyways, but so you guys get to know him a little bit more too. But these are questions that, quite honestly, I don't know the answer to, but that they could be important, and for the future of this podcast.
Do I get to keep my clothes on?
You do. Thank goodness. Anyway, Steve, now I'm sorry if this, if we're already just getting really deep into the nitty gritty, and if I'm testing your character, but I just have two questions for you, and you can
Mhm.
take your time answering them. You can think about them a little bit because they're worth thinking about. We want our viewers to know exactly who we are. Not just on the outside with what we do on this podcast, but also on the inside. Get to know our hearts. So, anyways, without further ado, Steve, I got a question for you, and I really need an honest answer. Um, Steve, do you believe that beans belong in chili?
It doesn't. I don't even have to think. If you don't have beans and
You you
chili,
can,
then
you can think about this.
you've got meat soup.
This
If you
is an
don't have
important question, man.
if you don't have beans and chili, you've got meat soup. So beans beans are in chili without a doubt.
Are you
I,
serious?
I believe if you took
Beans and
beans,
chili, man.
so if you take beans out of chili, the word chili would disappear from the literary language. It would just disappear.
I don't
Dictionaries
know,
across
man.
the country would be blank. It would be whatever it is, chili would skip and then go to the next word. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
uh,
Like beans and chili. I mean, it sounds like a good stew, but I just don't think you can call it chili.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of obviously, I like to eat. I've tasted it all, but it's just, whew, I couldn't do it. I feel like chili without beans is like filling for some sort of meat Twinkie, if there's such a thing. So, but,
Well,
but
you know what? We may just have to have an entire episode on this because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we could go on for a long time. And folks, if you think we should, I mean, by all means, let us know. If you think there's something we need to talk about, like whether beans belong in chili or whatever else, just feel free to let us know. We are open to talk about just about anything, given that it's an appropriate topic like beans and chili. But
Yeah.
anyways, just to move on, we could talk about that forever.
But we could coexist. We could coexist with that difference of opinion, right?
I don't know yet. We'll see. It really depends how you answer this next question.
All right.
Pretty
What's it?
important too.
All right.
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this. You can't pick Texas because we already know that when God made Texas, he made it the greatest bass fishing state in the United States. But because you cannot pick Texas, I know you would pick Texas if you could pick Texas, but because you cannot pick Texas, if you could pick one state to bass fish in for the rest of your life, which state would you choose and why?
It now obviously I would choose Texas, but that's because the government helps make Texas fishing so much better than the rest of the country.
I definitely agree.
And I say that because you guys have a phenomenal wildlife department down there. So for me, that decision, I'll have to come up with it as I'm rambling on about it. So obviously, I live in Tennessee, born and raised. If you can connect Gunnersville with Tennessee, because it technically starts in Tennessee, Tennessee, hands down. Tennessee,
Okay.
we've got grass fisheries, we've got really good smallmouth fisheries. We've got spotted bass fisheries. I know people hate on spotted bass things, but they're pretty fun to catch. We've got a great crappie population across the state of Tennessee, bluegill, whatever you want to do. So for me, I fished Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and obviously Texas, fished Kentucky some. Not got to do much up north, so I can't answer that. But it would be Tennessee. As you know, we all get to travel the country. And I get to do a lot, but Tennessee, not only because I grew up here, I can disassociate that, but the amount of fun that I get to have when we hit these fisheries, because Tennessee, we've got the rivers, the rivers that have muskie, they've got some walleye in them, again, smallmouth, and stuff like that. But it would have to be Tennessee, just based off of my experience of, you can go and catch 10 pounders like you can Texas and Florida. Now you might not get up into those teeners like you guys all have, but you can get on fisheries where, like here on Chickamauga, we've had days where we've got 25 to literally have 30-pound bags of largemouth on Chickamauga, and have multiple days, or multiple people have 25-pound bags out of a kayak. And it's just the scenery is amazing here where we're at too. So it would be Tennessee. So yeah.
All right. That's a pretty good answer. You and I just might get along. I mean, and the fact that you mentioned Texas first is even better, even
Yeah.
though I told you couldn't pick Texas. So I really
Right.
appreciate that. Now, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be fair for me to just, I mean, I know I just hammered you with the tough stuff. Come on, give it to me.
Yeah, and so for me, it's because obviously, we've been friends for several years, but over the last couple of years, we got to know you a lot better. Um, and you being a private guy, just because you're a humble man and everything. But if you had to quit fishing, because I know you get to do a lot of other things, um, what are you going to spend all your days doing going forward in the outdoor space?
Oh my goodness. I mean,
and
that's
and it
pretty. That
species specific too. You only
oh,
get
that's pretty.
one species.
Oh goodness, that's pretty easy. Well, no, that's actually really hard because you said because when you said if I could do one thing, I mean, of course, I would say I love to hunt. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I'm hunting crazy, and when in the winter time, I do some fishing in the winter time, but my goodness, when hunting season rolls around, we have a few months to do it. I want to spend as much time as I can hunting, but man, you made me pick an animal or a species to hunt. And that is the hard part
Yeah.
because I couldn't pick one if I tried. if I had to pick, but I can't answer it this way, and this may not be satisfactory for you, but if I'm doing it with my friends, it's duck hunting. If I'm picking the one that's the most fun to me, it's turkey hunting. And if I'm picking the one that's the most gratifying to me, it's deer hunting. I
Well,
hope that kind of answers it. I just, you can't make me pick one,
yeah.
dude.
Well,
Come on.
well, you answered it with no answer, but but
I answered it like a politician.
you sure did. So yeah, coming to you guys, vote for Guillermo Gonzalez soon. Um, yeah, but I get it, and so but the moral to that question is you just revealed some things about you, and that's pretty great. So we'll get into all the hunting things as we grow the series as well, I'm sure, because for me, it's not fishing, but when you can do it out of a kayak, you know, which is part of what we learned. You know, when we first started kayak fishing years and years ago, we were with the native watercraft family, and you know, some friends of mine just got to do some amazing shoots on the water, and it was just like they built a duck blind out of a kayak. Because I grew up, you know, on Nickajack, place called Helltown, and we walked the side of the mountain, you know, until our feet were raw squirrel hunting. You know, every now and again we get to pop a rabbit, and kind of a humble brag. We used to rabbit hunt with 22s, you know, and we would bring home rabbits. And so,
That's pretty
uh,
cool.
yeah, a lot of people use shotguns, but and so there's that
Do
question
you
on
put
that.
rabbit in your chili with beans?
Um, your
I
chili
never
with
had
beans.
rabbit chili. That's a legitimate question.
Well, you said chili with beans, so I saw how you
Well, I had to
differentiated
add
it.
with
Yeah.
beans because beans don't belong in chili. But anyways,
That's
continue.
right. That's right. No, we never did. Number one, I just rabbit always disgusted me. We just hunted it because my dad, my papa, on them ate it. But yeah, so chili for me was just had cow in it. So yeah, and then so I guess for me, my second question is um, if you had a state other than Texas, where are you going to fish?
Oh man. Okay. So, fish or bass fish?
Let's say bass fish because
Okay.
we're kayak centric. You know, we'll talk more tournament fishing than anything probably. So
Sounds good.
yeah,
So for me, of course it's, well, you said other than Texas, but it's Texas. Anyways.
yeah.
But if it's not Texas, in the last few years traveling, I have developed an affinity for two particular states. And they might be shockers to you. I don't know, but
Mhm.
and I got to pick one, and I will pick one. I will pick one. But I'm going to name these two because they are both so special to me, and they have become special to me in the last, however many years. And number one is New York, and number two is Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, New York, because when I went to Cayuga for the first time, I was absolutely blown away. I didn't realize that there was a state in the north that had Texas size fish in it. I mean, I know we weren't necessarily all catching 7 and 8 pound largemouth while we were up there, although a few did get caught. But man, was I seeing them everywhere. Like you could just see them swimming around like these big, wide fish. I couldn't believe it. Aside from that, you've got fisheries like the St. Lawrence, that I've been blessed to be able to spend some time on, among a few other fisheries. And then there's Wisconsin. The reason I like it so much there, I've had the opportunity. Lacrosse, for example, has always been one of my favorite tournament venues. I can't say that like it would be my number one like fun fishing venue, but as far as
Mm-hmm.
a tournament venue, I absolutely just can't get enough of lacrosse. And the reason that is it there are so many ways to put that puzzle together.
You're right.
So many ways. And every time we go there, you talk to the top however many anglers, let's just call it the top 10. And pretty much every one of them was in a completely different part of the fishery. We usually get to fish pools 7, 8, and 9, and usually, I mean, there's guys in 7, 8, and 9 in the top 10. And in addition to that, they're all doing something totally different. Some of them are targeting smallmouth. Some of them are fishing current. Some of them are fraud. I mean, there's just a number of ways to catch them. And then in addition to that, just going off of me saying Wisconsin, I've had the opportunity to spend some time on some other fisheries like the Wolf and Fox, and that place was wild when we were up there. We had so much fun, and it's my understanding that the Bassmaster Kayak series is going over there. And if you are considering, a tournament to travel to maybe somewhere where you've never been, the Wolf and Fox is a super cool fishery, and I highly recommend it. Beyond that, northern Wisconsin is one of the coolest places to fish in the country. If you haven't been, there's literally hundreds of lakes. They're all full of fish, largemouth, smallmouth, whatever you want to catch, even muskies if that's something you really like to do. And because there's so many fisheries, you could legitimately spend 5 days fishing up there. And most of those days, you may be the only person fishing in the whole lake. That is an entire possibility. And that to me is very special. So because I have to pick one, I think I'm going to pick Wisconsin.
I knowing you, I thought you were going to go with New York because you've got Winnebago or Winnipesaukee and all those
That's
other
New
ones up
Hampshire, I
there.
think.
Okay, all right. So for me, showing my ignorance there, I thought that everybody always reaches out to me and they're always like, you got to come back to the true Northeast, and it's always Winnipesaukee, and like you said, we've got Champlain. Just had a conversation with a
Oh
gentleman
my
from
gosh, I didn't
Virginia.
even mention Champlain.
Yeah,
That place is nuts.
yeah. And so for me, um, being a tournament director, obviously I don't ever put myself on y'all's tournament waters while y'all are practicing or fishing, but I get to hang around sometimes. And so I got to go out with a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine on their boat after y'all fished. And I caught one fish and it was a monster. Almost, it was 5 pound smallmouth, my PBM weight. And it just made me realize so as a tournament director, people don't want repetition, it seems. But I'm like, my gosh, if you're catching this kind of fish, what does it matter if you go 3 years in a row to a fishery like that?
I wouldn't be mad at it. I'll
I
tell
know,
you that right
I know,
now. I wouldn't
I
be mad
know.
at it at all. I can't. If there's one fishery that I mentioned Cayuga, but man, if there's one fishery, and I don't know why I didn't mention Champlain, but if there's one fishery I think I could go to over and over and over and over again, it's probably Champlain. I felt like, I mean, fishing makes me feel like a little kid every day, but man, I was giggling like a little girl up there, catching those smallmouth. I was having so much fun, and I even, up there, the cool thing is you could be smallmouth fishing, like targeting smallmouth, and randomly catch a giant largemouth. It happened to me while I was out there. I was targeting smallmouth and caught quite possibly one of the biggest largemouth I ever caught up north. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was over 22 if I remember correctly.
Wow.
And it's like, man, I'm not in Texas. I'm in New York. I'm so far north. And this is what they got up here. So, I mean, definitely super underrated. I think I'm still going to pick Wisconsin, though, because I have just grown to really enjoy, like I said, the solitude of some of those fisheries and just being able to be up there and feel like I have the whole lake to myself. That's pretty special.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, we're going to go to the Wolf and Fox. The last thing before we dive into, we're going to talk some Bassmaster Kayak Series schedule, and then highlight our Kissimmee event. But something I wanted to tie into, we had spoke to you about Guillermo had mentioned, the scope. So we're going to dive into, obviously we like the name. We think it's cool, the scope. Everybody's going to say, "Oh man, it's a scope podcast. It's a scope cod podcast, whatever," and that's not it. We're going to break down everything. We're going to break down obviously tournament fishing, because that seems like where we all migrate to. And a lot of people ask us like, why do you get to kayak fishing, this, that, and the other? And so, over the years, I found an analogy or an explanation rather that I think a lot of people really understand. So you can take a group of, let's just say, 50,000 people and put them in a stadium and, give them 2 weeks to just hang out, mingle and whatever. You'll notice people will kind of migrate to their own likeness. The duck hunters are going to find their way over here. The bass fishermen will find their way over here. The bow hunters will find their way over here. The kayak fishermen will find their way over here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a prejudice segregation. It's just this is my cup of tea kind of thing. And so we're going to talk tournament stuff, obviously, but we're just not confined to that. We're going to talk. We'll bring influencers in to help you all understand, if that's your cup of tea and what you want to do, how to get started in that, how to be good at it, and what equipment you might need in some instances like that. We'll talk about destination places to fish. Hopefully we get to bring on some people that are trying to get us to come to these tournaments and what it takes to put on a tournament in a city. Because a lot of people don't understand that, and not being any kind of negative way. They think, hey, why don't you just go to this lake? Well, we can, but we have to have A, B, and C to be able to support a tournament there. We want to kind of pull back the curtain on that and give you some education and see that. And what can happen when you do things like that is John Doe that's listening to the scope is going to be like, well, hey, I got a brother-in-law that works at such and such, so let me get a hold of them. And the next thing you know, we're able to go to a destination lake that we don't have contacts for. So you guys are a huge resource for us as tournament directors. You just are more than you ever know. And from there, we want to talk to the boat world people, what they do. And because the one thing that you'll find, as I mentioned, the like-minded people is we just fish. So no matter what you fish out of, fishing is fishing. If it's a buzz bait, you fish a buzz bait primarily the same way out of everything that you fish. So we want to bring those people on, mainly because a lot of them have experience in things that we may not have experienced yet. We're going to have brand new people that are just new to fishing, new to kayak fishing, that are going to be listening to this. So there are going to be some elementary things that we bring up that are repetitive for you, but it's brand new for someone else. We want to get into, as me and Guillermo were kind of going back and forth, the cerebral part of fishing, the mental part of fishing, the benefits of fishing, which can be mental health stuff, just getting outside, period. But everybody knows this about me. Don't let Guillermo fool you, because I've seen his stuff. We're tackle guys. We're tackle junkies. We're rod and reel junkies. We like the stuff. We want to bring on people that can break down baits, techniques for you, let you understand, as you grow, what the base level is on rod that will help you with each technique. If you're losing fish on a chatterbait, we want somebody to explain to you how to buy a rod that sticks it for you. And that way you don't lose them and quit fishing the technique. And then, from there, we want to bring in people that explain, what kayaks are, what this level of kayak entry is, what this kayak does for you, bring on manufacturers of all sorts. So we want to bring you the whole scope of the fishing world, not just kayak fishing. And thankfully, Bassmaster is on board with this. They're huge supporters of everything that we do. You all know that after the March championship with the Bassmaster Classic, the 2026 season will conclude with a championship in October that's separate from the Classic. And the reason being is they're putting the resources behind it for us to have a standalone championship. We'll have the Bassmaster stage. We'll have the Bassmaster media truck. We'll be able to stream and market what you all do out in that space there. So that's a little bit of a deeper dive into what we want to do here at the scope. And so with that being said, Guillermo, do you want to talk about Kissimmee first, or just go through the schedule and then hit Kissimmee last?
Sure. Let's dive into the schedule, and
Okay.
then we can talk about Kissimmee.
All right. So
I'm really
obviously,
excited.
yeah.
You put together one heck of a schedule. This is going to be great.
Well, I appreciate it. As you all know, 2025 had to be spread out. It was just so difficult to put together something at the end of what we'll call people's COVID budgets. Chambers of commerce, host cities, they got gutted. Their funds got gutted. So we did, and again, we put together a pretty good schedule. People fished it. We had a great time. And so getting into this one, we'll circle back to Kissimmee Chain of Lakes, which is our season opener coming up in 2 or 3 weeks or less than a month here. But so we'll once we've done that, um, I guess on this graphic here, you're going to come over to March 11th and 12th. It's our championship on Lake Chickamauga and Nickajack. So I'll let Guillermo kind of, because he's fished them both. What are your thoughts on and the reason I did two lakes, and then I'll let Guillermo explain what my question to him is I did two lakes because, we're at Winter Pool here on the Tennessee River system. So what that does is it takes a body of water, and when they lower the water level, it shrinks your fishable waters. And as we grow a series, because anglers make it from the Bassmaster Open Series events, the top five, you make it from the top 50 of your Angler of the Year race. And then we have Bass Nation. So Bass Nation is supports the tournament trail on the grassroots side, if you will. State level is a better way to put it. So the top 10% of each of those championship makes it as well. So each year we've got 150 to 170 people that qualify. So if you're looking at that number as a whole, say 100% participation, if you put it on a one tournament body of water at Winter Pool, yes, there's a lot of water, but as a tournament angler myself, enjoyable fishable water, there needs to be a little more sometimes than what a body of water can hold. So like Nickajack, which is attached to Chickamauga just above Guntersville, is a phenomenal fishery as well. So you're going to have options. They both have the same type of fish, so you're going to be able to go and break down water where you'll be spread out just a little bit more. And I think you'll have a more enjoyable kayak experience in your championship. So that's going to be a 2-day event in March. We're hosted here by Chattanooga Sports in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then the anglers are going to fish 2 days. And then on Friday, we'll be back in Knoxville, Tennessee on the Bassmaster Classic stage for the last time. And I'll explain that just real briefly. The Bassmaster Classic airtime, as you remember from Fort Worth, Guillermo, it's very long and exhausting. So it's being cut by an hour and a half to 2 hours. So what that means is there's less stage time because the Bassmaster Classic is the Bassmaster Classic for the elites. That's what it is. We've been blessed for several years to be able to be a part of that classic. But its true nature is for the elites, and that's what it is. And so we're going to be able to be on stage. It'll be a little bit shortened. But what's going to happen is on Saturday, for everybody that hangs around, we're going to have a 1-hour presentation on the Classic Expo stage inside of the Expo. Myself and Guillermo will bring up the top 10 who are still in town. We'll interview them there in depth. We'll bring up our Angler of the Year, let them talk and in depth, and then we'll just carry on with whatever. And so that's a new twist on the Classic for us as kayak anglers, which is very important because the stage is really cool. But when we get to be inside of that expo where people are just packed in there, they're packed in there. You're going to see a lot of interest raised in the kayak space. And so once we're done with that, we'll go into October, as I mentioned. But so that's what we'll do on Saturday. On Friday, we'll be on stage, and then at the Classic. And then on Saturday, we'll be inside the expo doing our thing. So for you, Guillermo, and it's okay if you're pro or con or for or against. So some people don't like waters being tournament championships being on separate waters, even though these are connected. Still, it's two separate bodies of water. So what are your thoughts on that? Number one, I guess, is a championship being on connected waters and not one single body of water.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, a lot of people have a very strong opinion on this, and I see both sides. I personally, because I see both sides, I've never had a crazy strong opinion one way or the other. Like, for example, I mean, when we get two fisheries, I really like the idea of being able to explore two fisheries. It's fun for me. It's fun to try to strategize and figure out, which fishery could produce the best fish. And, but I gotta say, I definitely prefer it when you have two very similar, very high quality fisheries like Nickajack and Chickamauga. Um, they're both great. I think it's, I think there's no telling, where the bigger stringers are going to come out. Based on their geographical location, and you think of like Chickamauga and Nickajack. I mean, it's very possible, like depending on where you are in the lake, those fish might be in a little bit of a different stage, and we might see some surprises as that tournament goes on, as certain fish kind of start to transition. It'll be at such a key time of the year where the fish they're thinking about spawning if they're not already spawning. I mean, I don't have as much experience on the Tennessee River, but down here in Texas and so many places by March 11th, they're already spawning. But nonetheless, I would assume and I would expect a pretty fantastic pre-spawn bite. And because of the geographical locations, it's going to be up to the angler to kind of to break that down and see where that pre-spawn bite's really going to be the hottest first, in terms of catching big females. And so I don't know. I think it's exciting. I could see how on some other fisheries perhaps where like you have a ton of fisheries that are involved in an event, right? And some of them are much better than the others, and that's where local knowledge really helps a lot. And I guess probably in those fisheries, I would say I don't like it as much. I mean, I kind of like to know when I go into a fishery that I'm on a pretty level playing field with everybody else. Um, and I definitely feel that way, regardless of which lake I put my boat in on Chickamauga and Nickajack.
Yeah, and to your point, and I'll just share some with the anglers. So, let me remove here and add this. So, this is the Kissimmee one we've got, and let me get the share over here. So what I was going to share was just the comparison of Nickajack and Chickamauga. So for Chickamauga, we're looking at the championship that was here in 2023. That Russ Snyder's won. He had a 93 and three quarter and 86 and a quarter. Damian Tao had an 88 and 88. Then you've got 94 and 79, 86 and 85. So I believe I did the math on this. And again, this is at Winter Pool. We probably had around an 88, 89-inch average on that particular tournament. And our Nickajack tournaments that we had in Tennessee Bass Nation, 92 and three quarter won it. It was a little bit later. Then we had 91 inches, 89, 80 and a half. And that tournament average, it was full of limits. We had about 70 people in that tournament. And the stringers from 15 to 22 inches or 24 inch was actually big fish, Patrick Mize. But that tournament that fish average is there on both of those lakes, and all of this is on Tourney X. You can go up much like people do with Google Earth, is you can go back and look at tournament results to kind of see, because I know we all, like you mentioned lacrosse earlier, we kind of get ourselves into this lather and frenzy of, well, if it's not loaded with 20 plus inch fish, we don't want to go fish it. But then you go to a place like lacrosse, like you said, and you're just catching quality fish over and over and over, and that's the way Gunnersville used to be for some years. I mean, you fished Gunnersville at the end of its heyday. It was the first time I ever met you, actually, in 2018, I think it was. So, that was at the peak, and then it took a drop for 2 or 3 years, maybe four. Like the fish were still there, but when the eelgrass came in, I loved it because I learned to fish Gunnersville as the eelgrass was coming in. And but on Gunnersville, at that peak before it dropped off, you could go down there and have 20 fish days with a majority of those fish being 3.5 to 4 pounds. And then you would run into that 6, 7, 8 pounder on that body of water. Well, that's the way Nickajack and Chickamauga is now. Are both are now. So Chickamauga took a hit due to tournaments. We got a lot of pressured waters here. just to not beat it up too much. But fish mortality, because no matter what you do, even if you're one of the top in the world, you lose fish when you're hauling them around all day long. So it took us a while to recover from that. There are certain things that happen to the grass up here that I can't just flat out say, but there's things that happen negatively to the grass. So that hurt the fishing for a while. But the last 2 years I've seen, because I live here, Chickamauga is definitely on the upswing. Went out a week ago with my buddy Daniel Lyons, and on a jerk bait, we caught 50 each. That's not including the yellow perch we loaded in the live well, but and each fish we caught was the 2 pound range, and we caught probably half a dozen 4.5 pounders. So those fish are back healthy again. And what we're noticing is, we'll get back to the schedule real quick, I promise. What we're noticing is we're catching fish again. I know a lot of people have a certain way about forward facing sonar, but we're catching fish again in areas traditionally that we used to. And I think it's because those fish are pressured by that sonar, they're reverting back again. And so we're catching them beating the banks. We're catching them in the 8 to 10. We're catching them deep scoping. We're catching them deep on rock piles, dragging a jig, and everything. So I
That
feel
might
like,
that might be a fun episode if we can get one of the
Mhm.
Chickamauga guides on here and
Yeah,
just kind of see what they're noticing and how the patterns have changed over the last however many years. But anyways,
it's a
keep
good
going,
thing.
Steve.
Yeah, that's a good thing there to have that perspective there. So, and then, after that, you guys get a little bit of break, a little bit of reset, and we're going to go on to Caddo and Bistino. We were at Caddo Bistino, a couple of years ago, 2024, where, we had Gene Jensen had 198 and a half, just edged out Matthew Scotch, who had 108, 102 on his day two with 198. It was 194 anglers in that tournament. Again, that was late in the season. So this time, Guillermo, we're going in April. So the difference from where are we at here, the difference in October and April at Caddo, without giving away the juice, because I know you're going to be competing, what can an angler expect there versus October? Because we all know we love to go in October there.
you know, I think an angler can expect to have a lot of fun. There's not a lake on this side of the world that isn't a blast to fish right on those dates, right in that April time frame. I mean, the top water bite starts to really truly heat up, and it's a time of the year where you can kind of lean on your strengths on whatever you're good at and probably do pretty well. Of course, a lot of the fish at that time of the year by then over there will probably start being post spawn, which can only mean one thing. I mean, they turn those feed bags on, they get to feeding. So I think that time of the year is more than anything just gonna be really fun. Sometimes by that time, perhaps you don't see as many of the giant fish that you would see in like February and like early March, but the numbers really ramp up in April and things just they get so much fun in that part of the world. So I'm excited.
Good. And for this whole schedule, one of the main things I believe in is reaching out and making certain that any other club in that area that's got something going on, we try to deconflict or at least include them there. So some of these events, you're going to have grassroots tournament series fishing with us, and some of them you're going to have other things fishing with us, like national level events. So that brings us to Santee Cooper, May 30th and 31st. The Queen City Kayak Fishing Club up there that Vinny Ferreri runs. It's, you can call it grassroots if you want, but it's not. Vinny actually helped me learn a lot in my early on getting into kayak tournament directing. Runs a phenomenal club with Queen City. It's pro level payout. So they're going to be fishing Santee Cooper with us as well. So you're going to have the option to double dip. So that takes us to Santee Cooper Lakes in Clarendon County, South Carolina. I'll go to you, Guillermo, because I've not ever fished them. I've only been a spectator online on Tourney X when you all fish. So do you have experience on Santee? What do you think about the end of May? I know it's not ideal for a lot of people up there. because we know Santee has to be, you really do have to peg it or it stinks. So what are we going to be looking for at the end of May, or do you know?
It's hard for me to say. I've gotten to fish on Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie a handful of times,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, I've enjoyed every single time I've been. But there's no doubt that Marion and Moultrie are those are lakes that like really reward an angler that's on his game. So whoever wins that event is truly going to be the angler that is most on his game. There is no getting lucky on Marion and Moultrie. Well, I say that there is
Yeah.
getting lucky on Marion and Moultrie. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still fishing, and
Yeah.
there's so many giant fish in there. So disregard what I said, but I mean, I always tell people, you got to be lucky to win, and you got to be good to be consistent. In this particular scenario, I think Sandy Cooper and May, you're you're gonna have to be good. You're gonna have it figured out. You're gonna have that puzzle put together because that lake's not just gonna give it away. Now we're gonna see a lot of really big fish get caught by people all over the leaderboard. That's no doubt because it's Marion and Moultrie. They have giants, but whoever wins that, they're going to be on their game. And you know what? For the first time, we might see, or at least that I know of, I haven't kept up too much, but for the first time, at least that I know of, I think we might see a winning stringer on Santee come out deep. And I think
Yeah.
that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And to your point, I'm what you call a fun enabler. So everything I do, I want you to come and have fun. And so I feel like I got to make it a destination lake, a vacation kind of deal or whatever. But when you sprinkle in something like what you just said, where, um, you know, the angler that's putting in the hard work, which everyone does, but to have a rewarding one like this on the schedule, I think I like that, and I'm pretty happy with it too. So, now for a lot of people, they're looking at Santee Cooper and then June the 6th and 7th on Clear Lake, California. And again, the West Coast event was put in because I'm not looking at the entire country being able to fish every event. We have to put something to a demographic that deserves to be serviced, which is the California West Coast area. So we had a successful tournament last year on Lake Havasu in Arizona back in January. And we had to go to January due to scheduling. So this here is the very next weekend after, because the only two dates available in the whole entire galaxy on Clear Lake in 2026 was June the 6th and 7th or Father's Day weekend. So I chose to go back to back, and mainly because, the people that live out there, they're not coming to South Carolina. A lot of people that are coming to South Carolina most likely aren't going to Clear Lake, California. But Matthew Brannon, our good buddy and hammer across the country, was able to put my hand in the hand of another person that was able to make this tournament happen in Clear Lake, California. So I'm excited to go. I'm sticking around 3 or 4 days after the fact and going to fish there. May actually try to get out in some salt water, maybe try to fish, but I'm pretty pumped about Clear Lake. I don't know. I know you travel a lot, Guillermo. Have you ever been to Clear Lake?
I haven't, but all my buddies tell me you got to come over to California and fish Clear Lake. And
Yeah.
I don't know how on earth I'm going to get there from Sandy Cooper, but I'm dang sure going to
Yeah.
try. I am dang sure going to try. It's going to be hard, but that is tempting, man. Clear Lake. And especially at that time of the year, I don't know anything about Clear Lake, but I can only imagine that June 6th and 7th would be a great time to catch some fish deep on Clear Lake. And I've always heard it's a great deep lake. It's a great lake to find schools of fish. And that sounds like a lot of fun. And after a lot of spring fishing, that could be pretty cool. Looking forward. If I can't make it over there, I'm at least looking forward to see how those West Coast hammers break that place down. I mean, there's so many extremely talented anglers on the West Coast that I wish honestly we got to see more of. Not too much because they'd come over and just kick our butts, but I wish we got to see a little bit more of on the East Coast, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's a lot of travel and it's hard,
Yeah.
and people have families and whatever else. But I'm excited to see those guys duke it out, and I hope that I can be out there duking it out with them.
Yeah, and to your point, that was the main thing for me is, like I said, what you're going to see with what Guillermo and I do on this podcast is we're two people. I mean, we share the same faith in Jesus Christ, but we are very inclusive people. We want everybody to come to the party, everybody to come to the event. And so the California people deserve it. There's a lot of things that in the past that things just didn't line up. But James Snyder, Damian Tao, and all them out there, they were very helpful with information, connections, and things like that. And a lot of people talk about how hard California is to work with on the wildlife department, but that wasn't my experience. And the lady that I spoke to, and I'll move on from this real quickly, but manpower. The reason it's difficult to have tournaments out there is because they only have a certain amount of people to inspect your watercraft. Like when you fish Champlain, when you came out of the water, you had to have your vessel inspected so that there's not contamination from waterborne pathogens like the mussels and stuff like that. So the California people were super receptive to everything that we were working on out there. So looking forward to getting back out there with those people and making sure that we can get back out there every year after that. So thank you to James Snyder and all those other people that helped there. And so as historically, we take off as much as we can in July, just to give people a little bit of a pause because we've already had 3 or 4 or 5 events. We know your grassroots are kicking. And so, we picked back up in August historically. Didn't really want to put 2 in August, but the way both of these fisheries laid out, it was hard not to. So we're going to go the first weekend of August to the Susquehanna River. This will be the third time we as Bassmasters, a trail series, go to Susquehanna. The fishing up there is always extraordinary. We're going to be further north for this event as a host, which means that I'll redo the boundaries. There's some things that have happened in the kayak world. I won't shy from them, but I won't go into the detail about them. But it's shown where we need to take some precautions to put in some boundaries on fishing areas that can get an angler disqualified or potentially break a law. So we're going to make sure we address those things. And from there, the native the native no limit tournament is going to be fishing there with us as well. So we're a 2-day series, Saturday, Sunday. They're a 1-day tournament series. And so that they're not, wearing your fish out on Saturday, they're going to fish Sunday. So really there's an opportunity for you to double dip. If you're fishing this Bassmaster tournament, you're going to have fished your fish on Saturday. So then when it comes Sunday and rolls around, when it's time to just lay the hammer down and not worry about exhausting your spot, you're going to be able to fish with us and then fish in that native no limit series as well. Some of you guys who are not fished in one, have you fished in one yet, Guillermo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I fished maybe 1 or 2. I haven't fished too many, but I did really enjoy it. They've had them at Fork about every fall,
And
and
so,
I'm usually bow hunting, but
yeah.
but I actually have taken a break from bow hunting to go and fish that event a couple of times, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and so that's run by Vinny Ferreri and the crew, Marvin Forte and a couple other guys. And so up there, Aaron Fetterman will be running this one. And so what that is it's a head-to-head competition. You catch every fish that you can. Their leaderboard's dark, and we obviously are not going to make ours dark. And I don't mind leaving the leaderboard live on a all you can catch, no limit style because the leaderboard changes so much. It's great. But you're going to have a head-to-head payout as well. But what makes this tournament great is it's $1,000 per hour big fish. So at the end of the day, when the standings are done, they double check their fish on Tourney X, and each hour somebody takes home $1,000. You
Wow.
could catch a 14.5 incher and it be your $1,000 fish, you know. So it pays to get into these kind of things. I think it's $130 entry fee. So be planning with that. And we're going to publicize all of these so that when you come to event X, there's a couple of double dipping situations so that maybe save up an extra couple $100 to join in those two so that we can support the people that are partnering with us. And then so once that's over, our anglers are going to have about a month to reset. Again, this is a true Northeast so to speak. Well, not true Northeast, that's New York. But once we're done in Pennsylvania, we're going to head over to the Wolf and Fox Rivers in Appleton, Wisconsin. And I'll let Guillermo shed the light on this one. Then we'll get into Kissimmee. But to just share with you guys, a lot of you don't know about Wolf and Fox. AJ McWhorter took the Hobie Bass Open Series there 4 or 5 years ago, and it's much like Susky. So for me, last year it seemed like I had 3 scope lakes and 2 power fishing lakes, and then this year we're pretty much power fishing lakes and 2 rivers. You know, and so that's something that I thought was pretty cool the way that laid out. I had a gentleman, Guillermo, say, I hate fishing rivers and I hate alligators. So that means I'm fishing none of these tournaments. And so,
Oh man.
yeah, we were cutting up about that, but he's fishing them all except for Clear Lake. But it
Hey, you
was
can go
just,
to Clear Lake.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, but having said that, ending up with the 2 rivers like that, I think I like it a lot. And it gets us, we weren't really able to service the true Midwest, the Oklahoma, Missouri kind of deal. Really didn't get to go deep into Texas that much, but Wisconsin, we hadn't been there in a few years. La Crosse, as you mentioned, was our last one. But the Wolf and Fox Cities Chamber of Commerce up there, they contact us every year because the Hobie brought us there the first go around. I know you had a really good tournament there. You finished third. So just a quick, you already mentioned how much you love Wisconsin, but what does Wolf and Fox give everybody?
So Wolf and Fox, I'd say it's probably not so sleeper now because the Hobie Bass Open went over there and we had such a successful event. But I call that kind of like the sleeper of our schedule, the place that perhaps you wouldn't expect to enjoy as much as you're going to enjoy. I mean, that place is really special. And I'll just tell you one thing that I noticed about it that made it really special to me. I mean, anyone that's fished for smallmouth in the Great Lakes knows that they're just shaped differently. And I don't know how. I mean, it's really close to some of the Great Lakes there, but those fish on the Wolf and Fox are shaped like Great Lakes fish. And it is pretty cool. They're big, they're fat, they're mean, they're strong. And for those of you that don't like rivers, the Wolf and Fox, while it's technically a river, now I haven't looked at the boundaries. There's some very slow moving sections that can very well be fished like a lake. So I don't want to discourage anybody who maybe doesn't like a lot of current to not go to a place like Wolf and Fox, because you might be surprised to find some water out there. Like I said, I need to see what the boundaries are. I'm assuming perhaps they won't be too far off from the Hobie Bass Open Series, but
We'll expand them some. We're going to expand them a little bit.
Okay. But I don't know. And so I think you might be surprised to find some water that's perhaps not so much that river style. So I want to encourage anybody to not be discouraged if you don't like rivers to try an event like that. And then when you get done, go fish some of the lakes around it because it truly is a special place.
Yeah, and so to your point, a gentleman called me yesterday, and again, I love what I get to do for a living. I'm so blessed, and you all make fun of our Tennessee Southern twang. So this gentleman, I spent 20 minutes on the phone with him. He's a local up there, and he's fished it his whole life, and he kayak and boat fishes. So he wanted to make sure when he's got to be out of his boat. And he was talking about he's got a primitive setup, but he's got a little Minn Kota, car battery powered thing, and he's just telling me all the things he does, which I can't share here, obviously, but it was so great to listen to him. But what I really loved was hearing the "don't you know." And so I'm like, you guys make so much fun of us. I love getting to talk to these people. It's like getting to talk to an Australian, but the Wolf and Fox is going to be something spectacular, and that leads me into our Angler of the Year. Historically we've done your best 3 events. So, you can't get agitated at me saying you're going to have to win Angler of the Year by fishing rivers back to back, because what we're doing in our October championship, which again is October 14th and 16th, which means we're going to have a 3-day championship in October. So I'll get into the Angler of the Year first. So the Angler of the Year is going to be your top 3 events, okay, like always, but then we're going to include your championship finish as well. So, I truly feel like that'll give us the, like you mentioned, the Santee Cooper thing about how, you're going to be on your game and everything. Once you're done fishing your entire trail series, because trail series, you have to cater it to your lifestyle, what your schedule will allow. You may not get to fish head to head against John Doe or Jane Doe. Well, when you get to your championship, you will, because if you're in contention for your Angler of the Year, you're going to make our championship, okay, off of your points. So, having said that, when we get to our championship, which is going to be a 3-day championship, your Angler of the Year points in that championship will only come from anglers who made it in the Bassmaster Open Series or the Angler of the Year. So if I made it in through the Bass Nation Championship for that particular event, I'm not going to hurt your Angler of the Year points, okay? Because I didn't fish the Open Series or the Angler of the Year trail. So my Bass Nation entry gives me a shot to win a championship, but I don't feel it's fair for me. Let's say I've never fished a Bassmaster Open event. If I make it in through the Tennessee Bass Nation Championship, I shouldn't get a one-time 99 points and take away from you. So that's where I chose to do that. The other caveat to our championship, or I guess not caveat, the change we made, being a 3-day championship, you're going to have day 1 and day 2. And then on day 3, we're going to cut the field in half. So historically, we're averaging around 150 per tournament. So on day 3, half the field is going to fish for the championship. I feel like that's really fair, to help raise us to an elite championship on day 3, and still give a large number of the field a shot to make that championship, and then live out their dream of getting a blue Bassmaster Kayak Series championship trophy and be able to carry it on stage and be streamed on the Bassmaster platforms like we're going to do. So that championship, I'm still in negotiations with some host locations, but that date is set. So that's a weekend after a Bassmaster EQ. So once they're done, the Bassmaster stage is coming to Lake X, and we're going to set up and plan a bunch of things around that tournament and just try to grow the hype and everything that we can do for the angler. So
let's talk about Kissimmee.
Yep. Now we're over here to Kissimmee. And so for Kissimmee, that's going to be obviously our the beginning of our season. So there we've got February 7th and 8th. Again, it's coming up really quick. For those of you that fished it last year, it's the same exact. We're going to be in Orlando at the BEV Center. Something we did this year is the lake. We're not going to have as many lakes and bodies of water as we did on our first go around. Some of that's education on our part, me learning some things. The host chamber actually is the Kissimmee Chain proper, so to speak. And so those lakes will be connected, and then those will just be the 5 lakes. So we're not going to have as many lakes as we did last year into it. And so last year we had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lakes. And so I love that. It was great to let the anglers go and explore and everything. But to back up to your point on Nickajack and Chickamauga, we really need to have these lakes connected to the same ecosystem, if you will. They are separated by what you'd call, pseudo dams or quasi dams, little small overflows, weir dams. So all the water is essentially the same. And what that does is it keeps a lake that is far disconnected from being the hot lake to pop off. So we felt like by having those lakes be the ones that you all fish, we felt like it would give us a really good representation for you all to fish head to head, same conditions, same kind of waters and stuff. And so it's all published, but Guillermo, this year you're going to fish Kissimmee, Cypress, Hatchinea, Tiger Lake, and Lake Toho. So as of right now, that's where we're at. The ramp list is published. Your waivers and rules will be uploaded tomorrow, if not by Monday. So that's where we're at Kissimmee. So, you obviously fished really well there last year. You got your season started off great. So you want to, I know it's different because it's different waters, you were the guy that finished second place here, almost busted 200 inches.
Yeah.
So what are you expecting? And what are you thinking by fishing a lake? And you don't have to name where you fished last year, but you're going to fish a different situation. So what are your thoughts
Right.
on that?
Well, I mean, I'm excited for the different situation. To me, Florida has always been the great equalizer. Kind of like we were talking about Santee, at least on the Kissimmee chain, you definitely got to be on your game to get that play styled.
And why is that? Is it because there's such quality fish everywhere, or is
it,
it?
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that at that time of the year that we're over there, let's face it. I mean, what a better place to be, Florida, right? And a lot of tournament trails and tournament organizations have the same idea. Let's have tournaments down in Florida, and I know why they do it. You get down there, the weather's amazing. There's giant fish everywhere, and you get the opportunity to catch some of these fish. And I mean, if you're coming from up north and you're getting the opportunity to come fish the Kissimmee chain, come as early as the parameters of the tournament will allow you, because you might have some great opportunities to catch some giant fish. But just like a lot of places, it's definitely going to take some cracking of the code. Those Florida fish, they tend to just, at least from my perspective, they react to changes in weather differently than anywhere in the rest of the country. And for a lot of us that are traveling from out of state, that can make things challenging. And I've had it happen before down there on the Kissimmee chain, where one day you feel like the king of the world, and then the next day you just don't know what happened. But but anyways, nonetheless, I'm really excited for that reason. I love lakes that are the great equalizer, lakes that keep you on your toes. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to get the season started. It's going to be an amazing season, Steve. You put such a great schedule together. You're really one of the best at it. You think about everything, and you work hard with these chambers to really put together the best possible schedule you can. And this might be the best one yet. So I can't wait.
I appreciate that, man, a lot. And so, again, this is our host, Kissimmee Sports down in Orlando. They're bringing in, more kayaking. We've got a native hourly no limit tournament coming down there in September, I believe.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so, but, close us out, Guillermo. Again, this is our episode 1. We're going to grow. We're going to get better at it, but I feel like we did a pretty good job today. And again, we'll sometimes you're going to have me and Guillermo explaining what we think about stuff, because much like a sports talk radio, I mean, this is our show. We want to give you our gift of whatever we think we got. But we're also going to bring people on here too to give their perspective of things as well. But one thing I'll give Guillermo just a couple of quick minutes to close us out on is, as we get into tournament fishing coming up, when you've got a week-long practice, or even if you're just you're going to fish a Bass Nation event or a one-day grassroots event, give us a practicing without beating your fish up for dummies tutorial real fast.
Oh man, that's a double-edged sword, because I beat my fish up all the time. I just start having fun. I start catching them. Next thing I know, I realize I caught way too dang many. But anyways, so tutorial, huh? You put me on the spot here. Anyways, so okay, if I had to tell people how not to beat fish up, aside from like, what a lot of guys do, I'll never necessarily tell somebody, oh, you got to go out there and you got to fish without hooks. You got to, I mean, let's face it. We're there to compete, but we're also there to have fun. And when we get to go to fisheries, like the fisheries on this schedule, the potential to catch your personal best fish can happen at any time. And golly, if a big giant 11, 12, who knows, 13-pound bass ate my bait and I didn't have a hook on it, I guess I wouldn't know, but I can't even stand the thought of that.
If you saw it jump, it'd probably run your whole freaking weekend, wouldn't it?
It probably would, without a doubt, man, without a doubt. But
Yeah.
I what I kind of do is I always remind myself to keep moving. Let's say I catch a fish somewhere, right, and I try not to get too honed in on one pattern. I try to see as much of the lake as I can. I try to fish as many different areas as I can. And by continuing to move and continuing to check out new areas and not spending, I try to get an idea. I try to get the best idea I can of what some of the areas I'm fishing would be like. But one of my strategies that I kind of pride myself on is that I try really hard. I get an idea in practice and I try to figure them out on day one of the tournament. Once I kind of figure out where I feel comfortable, then on day one of the tournament, I really try to break it down. A lot of the times, and it happens to me quite a bit. And if you watch me on Turning X, you may notice this, you may not, I don't know. On day 2 of the tournament, I'm usually off to a much faster start than I am on day 1, because usually on day 1, I'm still trying to put that last piece of the puzzle together. I try hard not to put that last piece of the puzzle together in practice, because then I may go into that tournament with a completely preconceived notion. And the way that these fisheries change constantly, it's just a way that I keep myself on my toes. And it allows me, if things do change, because I was able to keep myself moving during practice, keep myself seeing different areas, I almost always have areas to fall back on that I can be confident in going and then taking the time there to figure them out. Sometimes, and sometimes that doesn't work out for me. There are times that doesn't work out at all, and that's tournament fishing, but that is a strategy that I employ quite often, and that's using day 1 to completely crack the code versus trying to feel the pressure to crack the code during practice or on the last day of practice or whenever you like to have that code crack, so to speak.
Yeah. And to your point, as we close out, I've had anglers tell me, yes, we're here for a tournament, but at the same time, you don't want to miss that PB, so to speak. So if you're fishing a possum kingdom, Tom Kazmersky, for all intents and purposes, didn't have a scale. He probably caught a 13, 14 pounder,
Yep.
And who's to say that fish was even going to be there? If you've ever fished for smallmouth, you realize they're devils. They'll be there. They'll be there for 6 days. And as soon as you go after them for money, they take off. So yeah, but we appreciate that bit of insight there. And so again, guys, we appreciate you tuning in to the first podcast we have. We're going to try to hopefully get one more in before you all are fishing on Kissimmee. And again, don't forget, for each of these Bassmaster tournaments, we try to have some sort of meet and greet on Thursday. Cody Prather runs our Fisherman Fellowship. If you want to be a part of that on Friday, you're welcome to come and hang out for a little bit and do a little bit of fellowship with men and women there. But then, during registration, we'll bring you all in for Kissimmee. This will be an in-person angler briefing. So once you come in and register, you are going to have to hang around and get up and listen to me in person. Want to make sure that we are highlighting safety again. Just go back over some things that we may all get complacent with on the water and stuff like that. And then, just to see one another and continue to grow the community and the support that you all do. And again, we appreciate everything that our sponsors do on the kayak series. But again, want to just tell you how indebted I am to Guillermo for being able to come in and be my partner in this. So we look forward to a lot more. But Guillermo, let you say goodbye to everybody, and I'll hit the plug, and we'll see all y'all the next time we get on here.
All I gotta say, Steve, is this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have fun with this. I can't wait to see, some of the people we're gonna get to talk to and some of the topics we're gonna get to touch on. And I would encourage, all of y'all that are listening, all our listeners, to let us know. Don't hesitate to let us know what you want to, what topics you want us to cover, what you want to learn about, what you want to hear about, or who you want us to talk to. We're going to be super open to suggestions. This is called the scope. We want to cover a lot of topics, and we're ready and willing. So if you guys have, if you guys have a topic you just really want to hear about, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's going to be an awesome year. And I can't wait to see where this goes. Thank you so much, Steve, for the opportunity.
Yeah, appreciate you guys, and we'll catch up with you soon. Y'all take care of yourselves, and whatever it takes to get outside and enjoy the sunlight and have a good time, increase mental health and just de-stress, by all means do it. And reach out to us if you got any questions or anything that you need to know. For Steve Owens, Guillermo Gonzalez, and the Scope, we'll see y'all the next time we come around. Thank you.
See y'all.
What matters to you? Commitment, dedication, precision, connection. Catching fish? Good. That matters to us too.